Hey everyone, welcome to a new video. Welcome to my channel. My name is Micah and today I will be ranking my concealers for you. I love concealer. It is one of my favorite base products, if not the favorite base product that I really like using. It's a product I can use up quite quickly, and even before I really liked wearing foundation on a day-to-day basis, I would always use a little bit of concealer. So I think that concealer is definitely a category where a lot of people tend to use it, and I have a couple of firm favorites. And I do have to say, I can already give you a little bit of a sneak peek that a lot of my top 10 is going to be drugstore, because I love myself a drugstore concealer. So I'm going to rank them from bottom to top. Do bear in mind that I decluttered my collection earlier in the year, so everything I have here I like. They work for me, but if I had to rank these and sort of go from least favorite to favorite, this is what I would do. So let's just start at the bottom. So in total I have 27 concealers, and my bottom one would be the N Wild Photofocus concealer. This is one that I hadn't really tried yet when I was filming my declutters. This is one that was still on my to try list. The reason why I don't like it very much is not because of the formula, it's just a little bit too dark for me. This is the lightest shade, this is light ivory, but it's not light enough for me to really make it work. Oh, and by the way, I can't swatch these. I forgot to say that in my intro. I can't swatch any of them, or not all of them, because some of these are unopened and I'd like to keep them unopened, because if I open them, they will go bad, and some of these you either cannot get anymore, because one of my favorites has been discontinued, or it's a product that I repurchased. So I definitely did use up a full one of those before I bought a new one, but then the new one I keep unopened as I'm trying out other things. So I hope you understand that. So also at the bottom for me is the Too Faced Born This Way Multi-Use Sculpting Concealer. I like this concealer a lot, but what I don't like about it is that it doesn't really wear very well on me throughout the day. It starts looking a little bit cakey and a little bit makeup-y throughout the day. I much prefer the regular Born This Way concealer, which I'm not sure whether this was put in place of that. If that's the case, then this will, this will see me through the day. I mean, it's fine, and you get a whole lot of product, which I do really appreciate, but I don't think that this is the same formula as the original Born This Way concealer, and I find that one to be a bit more hydrating. I also wanted to throw corrector in here, and I have a green corrector by Catrice. This is their liquid camouflage concealer, but in a green anti-redness kind of shade. And I do have to say that this is as good as a regular concealer. I just don't really have a lot of use for a green color correcting concealer. I do have to say that if you apply this under foundation, it will cover it up. You don't get a green cast, which I love, because that's usually a really big problem with green correctors. So this is a really good corrector as far as green correctors go. It's just not really something I reach for a lot. I also have the Catrice Retouch Brightening Concealer in a lavender shade, and this works really well, but this is one of those like touche éclat type of products, so it's very lightweight, doesn't have a whole lot of coverage, but it does a nice job of brightening up the under eye if that's something that you're looking for. My favorite under eye corrector, and since I'm not really currently using a lot of corrector, I put it towards the bottom, but if there are like periods of time where I use this, I just go ham. It's the Bobbi Brown corrector. I have mine in light bisque. As you can see, this has had a lot of love. I've hit major pan. I'm pretty sure that if I really committed to this, I could definitely use it up. But I tend to use this a lot with like lighter weight concealers in the winter time. But I have found some more medium to full coverage concealers that I love that don't warrant the layering of a corrector and a concealer. So I feel that makeup has advanced a little bit, which is why I don't really feel it is necessary for me to use a corrector. But usually come winter time, I get a few more bags, and as the school year progresses, I also get a few more bags, so then a corrector is always good to have on hand. This is a little Catrice camouflage stick, and as far as stick concealers go, they can be very dry and cakey. This is a really nice one actually, but the reason why I'm not a big fan of this is, like, first of all, this stick is so thin. It's great for like throwing it in your bag for touch-ups and all that. I'm just a little bit afraid that it will break or melt, and you really don't get a lot of product in this. It's only 1 gram of product, so it's a little bit expensive for what it is. There are definitely better Catrice concealers on the market, as you will see in a minute. I also have some high-end stuff very much at the bottom of this list. Let's just start here. This is the Kat Von D Lock-It Concealer. This is in the shade L5 Neutral. This is a really, really nice shade for me in the wintertime. It's a very nice brightening concealer. I just feel that the Lock-It concealer is a little bit too heavy for my tastes. It isn't necessarily drying, it's quite thick and it's a little bit more difficult to blend out, I find. So to get this to look nice, especially in the wintertime, when I tend to have more dry skin than I do in the summertime, this is just a little bit too much of a good thing, I guess. But if I need something that's super brightening and super heavy duty, then this definitely does a good job. Now this may be a bit of a surprise because a cult favorite concealer is the Tarte Shape Tape. I didn't like this on my dry skin. I like something that's a little bit more lightweight. I just think this is a bit too heavy duty for my taste. What I love this for is cutting creases and sort of like making sure you block everything out. I think this is the type of concealer that does that very, very well. I use other concealers from it from time to time because I tend to be lazy and just reach for the concealer I'm using at the moment to cut creases and doing all that, but this is actually a really good one, which is why I keep it around for that. It's a nice shade, it wears really well, all the stories are true, it's just a bit too much, like the Kat Von D for me, on a daily basis. So if you want to go full glam, I can get it why people love this, but that's not my daily look. I also have a bunch of concealers here in the middle that I actually haven't tried enough to really know and have made up my mind about, or it's stuff that I've had for a long time that I know I liked, but that since I haven't used it for a while, I'm not even sure what I thought of this. This is the Master Conceal by Maybelline, which all of the above goes for this. This is a concealer I really enjoyed when I was using it, which is why I kept it. It's a really nice one. It's just not one that I reach for a whole lot because I have a top 10 of favorites, and that's also where most of my repurchases are, I think. Yeah, those are all repurchased items as well. So that's what I would go for mostly. So this may be a bit redundant in my collection. So come next declutter round, this may be something that I could get rid of. But yeah, maybe I should give it a bit more of a whirl once I've tried some of the new concealers that I'm currently testing out. But this is definitely something I need to put in a Shop My Stash to really remember what I felt, how I felt about this. Urban Decay All-Nighter, the Urban Decay All-Nighter Concealer is one that not a lot of people liked. It doesn't come with a whole lot of product, I remember that. I have mine in Fair Neutral, and as far as full coverage concealer goes, this is one of the best ones that I've tried. It's just something that, again, I don't reach for a whole lot. So I just like other Urban Decay concealers a little bit better. So this is sort of, again, superfluous in my collection. I don't reach for this a whole lot. Again, something I should put in a Shop My Stash. Just saying. Now last year I really wanted to try some ColourPop, and this is the ColourPop No Filter Concealer. And again, this is one that I have forgotten about how I really felt about it, but as far as I remember, it didn't do a whole lot for me. It looked a little bit drying and cakey, like the foundation did as well, I felt. So the ColourPop No Filter Concealer is definitely one that is on the chopping block. Again, this is a good one for cutting creases though, so I can get my use out of it. It's good for spot concealing around the face too, but on the under eye, I find this a bit too drying. One of my OG favorites is the Maybelline Fit Me Concealer, and this is actually a backup that is still closed. I used one of these up completely, and what I tend to do, if I like a concealer, I use it up, I repurchase it, but ever since I repurchased this, I haven't had a chance to use it because so many of the concealers that I've been buying and have been trying have become instant favorites in like the past 2 years, which is why this is sort of like trickled down towards like the back of my concealer collection. Not something I reach for a whole lot again, but this is still sealed and unopened, so I'm sure that if I feel like using that concealer again, I can. And then we're getting into new concealers that I just really need to make up my mind about. Like, these are all purchases that I made in the past year, and one of them that I've ranked highest here is the one that I've just been trying for the past 2 weeks. What I'm wearing today is the Makeup Revolution Conceal and Hydrate Concealer. This is their newest launch together with a foundation. They launched this at the end of August, and I'm currently trying this out and wearing it for the first time today. So I have no clue, but I really like the Conceal and Define Concealer. So if it's like a more hydrating version, you know I'm all ears because I love a good hydrating concealer, but since I'm still testing this out, I can't really say too much about it. The concealer that I bought when I was in London is the Infallible More Than Concealer by L'Oreal. They seem to have a better shade range there. I bought mine in Fawn 323, which is a shade we can't get over here, and it's a really nice neutral match. It's a really, really good concealer, but it's a bit more full coverage, I feel. I've only used it a handful of times, so just like the All Nighter and the Maybelline Master Concealer, I definitely need to put this in a Shop My Stash in the future to really make my mind up about it. And the same goes for the MAC 24 Hour Studio Fix Smooth Wear Concealer. I really wanted to try another MAC concealer because I've tried a couple of theirs in the past and I love them. I love MAC concealers. I have this in the shade NW15. I can get away with NW20, but I find that in the wintertime, it's usually a little bit too dark, especially when concealers dry down and they oxidize a little bit. I prefer my concealer to be a touch lighter than to be a touch darker, you could say, which is why I went with the NW15. This was a really nice concealer. It's very hydrating. I think I bought this in the wintertime, so again, something I need to put in a Shop My Stash. What I've been trying out the past 2 weeks is the brand new Urban Decay Stay Naked Concealer, and this is a mattifying concealer, but it's super duper lightweight, which is what I appreciate. I definitely feel that as time progresses, makeup techniques and makeup formulations change, and I feel that this is a really nice hybrid between the old Naked Skin and the All Nighter concealer. It sort of has the hydration or like the thin texture of the Naked Skin, but it has more coverage than that, but it doesn't have as much coverage and not much of a dry down as the All Nighter does. So I feel that this is a very sort of well in between. It's a really good medium coverage concealer, and I was really enjoying using this. I do have to say that I feel that as you pull this out, like this is open so I can show you this, but it has a really weird, can you see that? It has this like bucket style applicator, and it means there's a lot of product in that little curve. And while that seems really ingenious at first, I found that I really had to like dot the concealer around, and then when there's no more product left on the applicator, use the applicator to sort of wipe out the concealer in like a larger area to really make sure I get a more even coverage. It is one that dries down quickly, so you do have to work with it quite quickly as well, I find. But it is a really nice one. It doesn't make me look really like, it doesn't age you, it doesn't really pull into fine lines, it doesn't emphasize any dryness, and for a mattifying concealer, that is very unique. So do really like that, but it's not top 10 because I have other concealers that I like better. Another one that also just didn't make it into the top 10 is the Born This Way Concealer by Too Faced. I much prefer this over that large one. This I feel is a lot more hydrating. It's a lot better on my under eye area, and I also feel that this is a better shade match for me. Like this is a bit more yellow and this is a bit more pink. So, and I usually like concealers that pull a little bit more pink over ones that pull a bit more yellow, especially on my under eye area, because it wakes me up just a little bit more. And then right now it is time to move into the top 10. So from here on, I'm going to be numbering them as well. In the number 10 spot is the L'Oreal Perfect Match Concealer. I have mine in Rose Ivory 1RC. What I really like about this concealer is that it has a peachy undertone. If you want a concealer that corrects at the same time, this is really pretty. This has a very, very lightweight texture though, so it's not going to give you boom coverage, but this is one of the nicest lightweight concealers on the market. Because it already has that corrective ability, you don't need to layer a corrector underneath it. So especially if you love a very natural daytime glowy look, this is one of the best concealers on the market for that. A concealer that is still in its packaging is the LA Girl Pro Conceal Concealer. I have this in the shade, can I find this? Porcelain. I used one of these up completely in the shade Ivory. It was a bit dark, which is why I ended up repurchasing it in Porcelain in the end. Remember, I like my concealer to be a bit lighter, and Ivory is nice on me, but it's very much like very close to my skin tone for most of the year. I do have to say that this concealer takes a long time to use up. When you start using this, you can use it for a year straight on a day-to-day basis before you run out of it. Because I do really like this concealer. In terms of heavy duty, I prefer this over any of them. This comes with a brush tip applicator that you sort of squeeze the product through and then wipe it onto your face. Also unopened is a backup of my NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer. I, again, first originally bought this in Custard, thought it was a bit too dark for everyday, so I repurchased it in Vanilla in the end. They also, when I bought this, gave me a little mini travel size, so I always use this concealer when I'm traveling because I have the mini. And it's just a really good, solid concealer. I do have to say that Radiant Creamy Concealer makes it sound like it's more luminous than it is. This is definitely a mattifying concealer, I find. It's definitely one of the more heavy-duty ones, but I still feel that this works for every day. You know what I mean? Where, for instance, something like the Tarte Shape Tape, it's a really good heavy-duty concealer, but it's a bit too heavy-duty, if you know what I mean. If I want to go heavy-duty and it's still for like everyday wear, I go with the NARS. Another one that has that brush tip applicator that I showed you in the LA Girl is another unopened one. This is the Rimmel Match Perfection Concealer in the shade Ivory. This is a concealer that you run out of very, very quickly. When you start using this, you can use it up in about 6 weeks, which is the only downside to this. This is probably one of the best, very natural, everyday, lightweight concealers on the market. It's very radiant looking, very glowy. It makes your skin look very dewy as well. It's very hydrating. It also contains some like vitamins or something, but it still has really good wear time too. This doesn't pull in any fine lines. I love this. And if you buy this in a drugstore on offer, it really doesn't have to break the bank either. Now, something that towed the Born This Way and also the Stay Naked sort of out of my top 10 is the Essence 16 Hour Stay All Day Concealer. This, I had never tried this. This is one of the longest standing products in Essence line. It only comes in 2 shades, which Essence needs to do something about that. And this is not even the lightest one. I have this in the darkest one. This is 20 Soft Beige because it's a bit more pink tone. The other one has a more yellow undertone. So that's why I went with this. I'm not sure if you can see that, but I've already used up like half the tube. Like I only have this much left. And I've been using this a lot over the summertime. This was such a great, again, very lightweight, long-lasting concealer. That's what I love. I love a very natural concealer most days. And this was perfect for the summertime because it withheld the sweat and the humidity and all that. It worked really well for that, but it still looked very natural. Perhaps not what I'm looking for in the middle of winter, but for the summertime, this was really nice. Top 5! Woo! We're almost there. NARS has another concealer that I like better than the Radiant Creamy, and that's weird because this is their Soft Matte Complete Concealer, and this comes in a pot. I usually don't like pot concealers because they're a bit drying and cakey usually, but this is the first pot concealer that I feel works really well on the under eye as well, and I was so impressed when I started using this. Again, I think I started using this in the middle of winter and I was so afraid that it would emphasize all the dryness and texture in my face. It did not. This is one of the best concealers, and because it comes in a pot, I actually find that it's very easy to navigate how much product you use. So you can never overuse this. You can use it all over the face. In terms of heavy duty concealers, this definitely takes the cake. Number 4. I already mentioned Makeup Revolution, but this is their Conceal and Define concealer in the shade C3. Again, this is the unopened backup that I bought after using up a complete one because I love this so much. This is one of my favorite concealers of all time. I do have to say that there are a couple of like favorite all-time concealers in this top 5, but there was one that was released by Catrice earlier in the year that just, you know, just did it for me and really made it to the top spot straight away, but this is a really nice one. And actually, I would have to say that it's at the same sort of spot for me as the Catrice Liquid Camouflage Concealer. I have mine in the shade Natural Rose, and these I feel are very complementary. So if you can't get this, or complementary, very similar, I should say. If you can't get the Catrice, get the Makeup Revolution, and vice versa, I would say. Because I feel they do a very similar thing. They are a medium coverage concealer. It's definitely not high coverage or anything like that. Again, the Catrice, I think I've already used up 2 of these in the past, and this is such a lovely concealer. It's very affordable, and yeah, you can really sort of nicely control how much you use. And it's a really, really good concealer, you guys. I can't rave about it enough. My favorite high-end concealer then at number 2 is the Urban Decay Naked Skin. And this was, of course, discontinued in favor of the Stay Naked. So it's a good thing that I like this, because I feel that once I run out of this is a backup that I haven't opened again. But if I use up this, then I feel that this is a worthy enough replacement. But I just feel that this... it's so nice and lightweight and light coverage, and it just still makes you look really healthy and glowy, and I love it. This is such a scrumptious concealer. It's why it's in my top 2. And then number 1. Can you guess? Can you guess? This is sadly a product that isn't released everywhere yet, but it's the Catrice One Drop Coverage Weightless Concealer. This comes, I believe, in 9 shades, so that's a little bit better than the usual by Catrice. And this is a backup. I think I bought this in January when it was released over here, and when I started trying this, I went ham. I think I used it up in about 2.5 months, 3 months, sort of that around that time span. Comes with 7 milliliters of product. It has a little pipette style. So you can just drop it onto the back of your head and then like dot it around your face. That's how I was using it. It's not 1 drop per se. I do have to say that 1 drop isn't enough for your entire face, but 1 drop for each area that you would like to cover is definitely enough. It is a bit messy to use. I also had this leak into my drawer because it cannot sit upright, so I had to put this up on top of my desk. And it's also a little bit difficult to get all of the product out because at the end the pipette won't suck up any more product, and then there is still product inside it. Also, because of the glass bottle, you can't really see the product going down either. Like with this, for instance, you can see how much you have left, and with this you can't. So that's a bit of a downside, but the product itself, I really am a huge fan of those like very watery foundations, like the very like watery foundations that also come with a pipette. And this is that, but in a concealer. I love it. So that means that in my top 10, I had 1, 2, 3 high-end and 7 drugstore concealers. So that just goes to show really a concealer does not have to break the bank. Especially a brand like Makeup Revolution has a really good shade range as well. And especially now that they have a hydrating version, I think they now have a little bit for everyone. So that's really great. But yeah, I hope that you could leave a comment down below and let me know which concealer is your favorite. I would love to know because I love trying new concealers, you guys. It's a thing. So that's the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you'd like to stick around and see more of my content. I make videos 3 times a week, so there's lots more coming your way. I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!